Hey everyone, Sam here from Silly Stories for Kids. Guess what? Here's another story made up on the spot just for you. We hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's go! One night, two little kids named George and Louie were getting ready for bed. Now, they'd put on their pajamas and they'd gone and they'd brushed their teeth, and as they were heading towards the bedroom again, they heard a noise. Dum-dee-dum-dee-dum-dee-dum-dum-dum. Who's that? Said George. I don't know, said Louie. Let's go look. So they raced into their bedroom to try and work out what was going on. As they got into their room, they saw something very, very funny. There was a purple fuzzy creature in the corner of their room trying to climb up onto one of their shelves. He was wearing a funny little elf costume. Excuse me, said George. Hello, said the purple fuzzy creature. What are you doing? Well, my name is the Pim Pim, and for some reason, everybody keeps talking about some elf on a shelf and how he is very, very cheeky. But I need to prove that Pim Pim is actually the cheekiest, not the elf on the shelf. So I have decided to start with your bedroom, and you are very, very special. What do you mean? Said Louie. Well, the elf on the shelf does lots of very silly things, but I am actually the silliest. Oh, okay, said the kids. Yes, so I have decided that I will start doing the silly things, and I'm starting here. Okay, well, actually, I could use some helpers. Would you like to help? Sure, said George. Definitely, said Louie. We can do silly things together. Fantastic, said Pim Pim. Well, first of all, you will need some different costumes. Pim Pim waved his hands around over the top of his head and then clicked his fingers. As he did, George and Louie's pajamas both turned into... I'm an elf, said Louie. Me too, said George. Hooray! Okay, well, now that you are ready, it is time to prove that the cheekiest thing on earth is a Pim Pim on the shelf. So Pim Pim climbed up onto the shelf and he stopped. What are you going to do now? Said George. Watch this, said Pim Pim. As he jumped from the shelf down towards the ground, all of a sudden, something very strange happened to the carpet in the boys' room. It turned into... Whoa! The carpet just turned to noodles, said George. Wow, said Louie, starting to run his fingers through all the funny noodles. Hooray, said Pim Pim. Now we can do noodle skating. Noodle skating? What's noodle skating? They said. Pim Pim started to run and slide his feet as he did. La-di-da-di-dee-dee-do-dee-do-dee-do, he said as he slid and spun and did twirls and spins. That looks like fun, said George. He decided to have a turn as well, so he started to slide and spin. Come on, Louie, give it a go. Louie was a little bit unstable on his feet. He started to slide, but he slid too fast. Wow, he said. He smacked straight into the wall. Oh, said Louie. That was a good one, said Pim Pim. But we need to do more tricks. Okay, let's go, said Pim Pim. As he skated out of the bedroom, George picked up Louie and they both skated out behind Pim Pim. As they went into the lounge room, they started looking around the house. Well, where could we go next? We need to do some big tricks. How about we start with your daddy's car? What? Said the kids. Really? Yes, that is the best place to start. So let's go to the car. The kids raced out towards the garage. When they got there, Pim Pim was already at work. Okay, we need to do a little bit here and a little bit here. He had some kind of spray can that he was using on the tires. Here you go, boys, he said. He threw a can each to George and Louie, and they started to spray something on the tires as well. What is this? Said George. Oh, this would make it very, very fun. As the boys continued to spray, they realised that the wheels were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It was very, very strange, but the car tires seemed to be growing into... They're turning into monster truck wheels, said George. Yippee, said Louie. They watched and the car lifted higher and higher into the air. Quick, we better get it outside before it gets too big, said Pim Pim. So the boys quickly jumped into the car and Pim Pim jumped into the driver's seat. Okay, boys, here we go. They started driving and the car was getting higher and higher and higher. They only just scraped through the garage door before they got outside. The boys quickly jumped out and watched as the car tires grew and grew and grew. Their dad's car looked ridiculous. This is so fun, said George. I got another idea. Did you see that bicycle in there? Said Pim Pim. That's Dad's bike, said George. Okay, let's do that one too. So they raced back inside the garage with their spray and started spraying it all over their dad's bike tires. Then the bike tires started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. They got so big that it looked absolutely ridiculous. There was a tiny little bike frame in the middle with the biggest tires you have ever seen. Can I have a turn of that? Said George. Yes, definitely, said Pim Pim. So Pim Pim helped George climb up onto the bike. Okay, George, can you reach the pedals? No, I can't. Okay, hang on. Pim Pim climbed up and he grabbed the pedals of the bike and he started to pull. They stretched and stretched and stretched. I can reach them now, said George. Perfect, said Pim Pim. So George started to ride the bike out the front of the garage. Woohoo, he said, riding around in circles. Look out, George, said Pim Pim. George was headed straight towards the rubbish bin. Whoa! The rubbish bin got completely squashed. Oh, that was so funny. Okay, we better move this car. Come on, kids. So Pim Pim and the boys climbed back into the car. Okay, here we go. Pim Pim started to drive. I am the Pim Pim and I go the wrong way, he said as he drove out the driveway and started driving into the front yard. Pim Pim, where are we going? Well, we need to put the car somewhere where everybody will see. So they parked the car right in the middle of the front yard. Oh, Pim Pim, this is getting a bit ridiculous. Yes, it is getting very, very ridiculous. Yeah, said Louie, it's almost getting a bit crazy. Pim Pim threw his hand over Louie's mouth. You must not say that word, or else things might get a little bit out of hand, okay? Okay, said Louie. So, Pim Pim climbed out of the car and helped the boys out as well. Thank you, said Pim Pim as he raced back towards the door. Okay, now we need to do something with the doorbell, said Pim Pim. Okay, said George. What are we going to do with the doorbell? I think that we should change what it does. What should we change it to do, said Louie. Let's try this. Pim Pim started playing with the doorbell. Okay, George, give it a go. Okay, said George. He went over to the doorbell, and when he pressed it, the roof of the house lit up. Wow, said Louie. Look at the roof. That's cool, said George. Press it again and see what else it does. Okay, said George. Can I have a turn, said Louie. Sure, said George. So Louie raced over and pressed the doorbell as well. When he pressed it, tick, all the lights inside the house went off. Hey, who turned off the lights? Called out their dad. Oh, quick, turn it back on, said George. Louie clicked the button again and the lights came back on. Oh, that was strange, they could hear from inside. The boys were giggling. Pim Pim, this is fun. Yes, it is very fun. Okay, now let's go see what else we can do. To the backyard, said Pim Pim. So they raced around to the backyard to decide what to do next. When they got round to the backyard, Pim Pim looked in through the window. George, what is that? He pointed. That's our dad's sauna. Oh, I got a good idea, said Pim Pim. He raced around back to the front and then came back around with a big bag of something. What's in the bag, said George. Come on, let's go, he said. They went inside to where the sauna was and Pim Pim opened the bag. Here you go, boys. Start spreading it everywhere. The boys looked inside and inside the big bag was a whole bunch of corn. What's this for, said George. Just watch, said Pim Pim. So they tipped the corn all around inside the sauna. Then Pim Pim turned up the heat to the highest temperature it could possibly go. Okay, now time to wait. Actually, I don't want to wait. Let's make it happen faster. Pim Pim waved his hands and clicked his fingers. And as he did, the sauna got super duper hot. And then the boys could hear inside. Pop, 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 pop. All the corn began to pop. And in no time at all, wow, look, said George. The sauna was completely full of popcorn. The boys were laughing and giggling and having so much fun. As they were laughing, they heard another noise. Someone was coming. Uh-oh, said George. Into the room stepped their dad. Boys, is that popcorn? He said. Pim Pim looked and smiled. Hello, said Pim Pim. And who are you? I am the Pim Pim. And I am the Pim Pim on the shelf. What? Said their dad. He's trying to prove that he's more cheeky than the elf on the shelf, said George. Well, it's certainly the door of the sauna burst open and popcorn started going everywhere. Whoa, said the boys, and they grabbed some. It's tasty. This is completely crazy, said their dad. Uh-oh, said Louie. Pim Pim's eyes got very, very big. Did somebody say crazy? Pim Pim started bouncing around inside the house, zooming and flying around all the walls. He spun through the middle of the popcorn, and in no time at all, popcorn was blasting in every different direction. "What's going on?" called the kid's dad. "He said not to say that word," said George. Said Pim Pim as he zoomed around and smashed. As he zoomed around the room and crashed right into the sauna that was still full of popcorn. Pim Pim slowly poked his head out the middle of the popcorn. "Ugh," he said. "Are you okay?" said George. "I'm okay. But I think that I have now proved that the Pim Pim on the shelf is much more cheeky than an elf on the shelf," said Pim Pim. "Thank you for your help, boys. Okay, I will see you soon. Okay, bye," said Pim Pim, and he raced out the door. The boys were sitting on the floor, eating popcorn, as their mum came in. What is going on in here?" she said. "Well," said George, "I don't think you'd believe us, even if we told you." And that is the end of the story. This episode is brought to you by Pim Pim on a Shelf. If you've had enough of the elf on the shelf and want something that is actually really cheeky, find yourself a Pim Pim to put on your shelf. And make sure you do not say that very special word. "Hi, Pim Pim." "Yes, Daddy Winkle." "Crazy." "This has been me, the Pim Pim." And me, Sam. We'll see you soon. What happened to my car? Uh-oh, we better get out of here. Zoop.